Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready to head to Baltimore Sunday, face the Ravens, a game they need to get. Currently a game behind the Ravens and the Bengals at 2-4 in the AFC North. And they're going to have to beat the Ravens without Denzel Ward. Ward and Teller, Haig as well, all ruled out. The good news is Jadeveon Clowney practiced again today. He and Isaac Rochelle listed as questionable. You look over at the reports out of Baltimore. Mark Andrews returned to the practice field today. J.K. Dobbins did not, so he has missed multiple times this week. Stanley is likely a day of rest, as is Jason and Pierre-Paul. But it looks like Andrews and Peters, as well as Ricard, the fullback, all good to go. Let's welcome in Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Jeff, the good news is Clowney, they can use that up front. Bad news is no Denzel Ward.
With Denzel, look, it's tough. I mean, you have no idea how it's going to work and how you get cleared out of the concussion protocol, obviously being in it to this extent, to this long. Certainly not helpful. But, I mean, look, Martin Emerson played well last year. If there's one guy in the secondary that we probably can say has played better than expected to this point this season, it probably is MJ Emerson at this point. Plays with kind of like a no fear. I mean, there were catches he gave up last week, but still was able, was on them, contested them, 6 tackles. Getting Clowney back, this is one that's kind of big, though, because, as we've noticed, the Browns have shifted to more and more man coverage over the last few weeks. And that's certainly due to the communication issues. It's a lot easier to say, hey, I got 83 wherever he goes. And limits on, some of the gaping wide holes we have seen in the Browns coverage. But going to man, one of the things you're trying to capitalize off of is getting getting to the quarterback and getting guys home. Miles did that with great success last week, but the whole point of this is to get multiple guys back there to get the quarterback, rattled, to get the quarterback moving around. And that's what you're looking for this week with Lamar Jackson, because when Lamar Jackson doesn't have his best days, it's usually when he takes a shot or two early in the pocket in the game. When you get a little pressure on him early, then all of a sudden, maybe he's thinking about it. That's when you start to get to see maybe a ball thrown, basically at the back of somebody's legs because he's got to release it too early. Getting Jadeveon back is pretty key here. And you can't even say enough about how much he needed to basically, handle the athleticism of Lamar. But if they're making the shift to starting to play more and more man-to-man coverage, you're trying to capitalize on the fact that maybe you can get home, get some hits on the quarterback, maybe even create a turnover, something they need to do desperately.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. Well, we didn't get to see Deion Jones against the Patriots. That's the linebacker from the Falcons that the Browns traded for a couple weeks ago. Linebacker coach Jason Tarver talked about what he has seen for Jones and if he might be available against the Ravens.
He's a professional. He works. He brings great energy to work every day. He has a smile on his face. He has experienced the highest of highs and some lows in this business. Everything's happened to him, or he's made it happen. From coming into the league, going to the Pro Bowl, he's excellent at taking the ball away. He's scored many touchdowns on defense, which is a hard thing to do. And then he's overcome injuries. He's seen different schemes, so he's seen it all. He's been absolutely wonderful to work with, and I can't wait to see what he does.
Is he somebody that you guys envision kind of splitting time with Jacob there at the mic, or is he somebody who can play really all three of those spots?
Well, we said that we had 4 starters when we started this year, and we've used them accordingly. So in certain game plans, some of the guys play more than others in different personnel packages. Like last week, we had a few different personnel packages, so we used 1 or 2 or all 3 of them. What's really cool about him is he's played Mike and Will. He's made the calls for many years. So you will see him in with 1 or 2 of the other guys at Mike and Will. And I won't say any more than that based off of personnel packages.
Do you think this is a week, but is he ready to go?
He's had a very good week of practice. So, yesterday he was moving around really well.
So, Jeff, in my mind, this run defense hasn't looked the same since Anthony Walker got injured. I guess the question I got to ask you, is Deion Jones a guy that can fill that role for this defense? Because I don't think they got the answer in that locker room before they brought him in.
I would absolutely have to agree with you. But and look, sometimes you can have young talent, but sometimes young talent maybe needs to be orchestrated, it needs to be directed, and maybe that's what we got to see with a guy like Anthony Walker. I think we're all pretty confident in the type of player Sione Takitaki is at the Sam. But your Mike, your Will, these are the guys that are really supposed to go out there and make the playmakers, be the playmakers, I should say. And when you get to the point where the guys are playing with confusion, or they end up getting to the point where they're a little bit tired, or they're getting leaned on a little bit, now they're starting to overcompensate. They're not sticking to their assignment. They're not staying, not trying to make sure they're in their run fits and overcompensating, trying to make a big play. You can't do that because it throws off the whole harmony of the defense. A guy like Deion Jones understands what team defense is all about. He understands that, I may get dropped here by a 320-pound guard, but that's my job. This is what I'm supposed to do. Deion Jones comes in here, no contract for next year. So obviously he's going to come in here to look to make a name for himself. And if that means, he's got to be the leader, he's got to be the one that points guys out. He's got to be saying, hey, you did it wrong. Don't do it again. You need that type of veteran presence. Also, I think the thing with Deion Jones this year, particularly this week, is this is a guy who's been in the NFL for a while and has a pretty solid penchant for being a coverage linebacker. You've got a guy like Mark Andrews, who has absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Browns franchise for his entirety of his career. You're probably going to want to go some high and low on him with a safety over the top, a linebacker underneath. Deion Jones being the most experienced, best coverage linebacker the Browns have currently, without even taking a snap yet. This is the guy you're probably going to used to take that underneath stuff with Mark Andrews and make sure that he did, physically and understand that the safety is there to pass him off to. We get a lot of this, with the Browns coverage, just assuming the next guy did what he was supposed to, and maybe you left somebody a little bit too early. You just can't have that. It's not going to happen with a guy like Deion Jones, who's got a reputation of being a solid guy in coverage. And you're going to need that with a player like Mark Andrews this week. It's always been Lamar's go-to guy. When the chips are down, he's always been able to make a play for Lamar. And, this is not going to be any different this week. Lamar's going to be looking for number 89 as return to practice today for the Ravens. So I think we're going to see more Deion Jones than they're trying to let on. And it seems like a little bit like they're trying to basically, keep the cat in the bag, so to speak.
All right, you've alluded to this. This is from Pro Football Focus. It's percentage of time that each defense has played man coverage. Browns 17.1 in week 1, 12.2 week 2, 24.3 in week 3, 35 in week 4, 30% in week 5, 47.5%. Jeff, the switch to man hasn't really produced the results that they had hoped it would. I mean, there have been spots where it's worked and then spots where they've just gotten beat again. There's no other way to say it.
Well, I think the issue maybe over the last couple of weeks is not getting home enough, not getting enough pass rush. Look, you can play man, and man coverage, and it's great if you have the guys to do it. But, if you're going to give the quarterback 3.5, 4 seconds to expect somebody to run, expect 5 guys to run with 5 potential receivers for that length of time, it really, really becomes difficult. And getting Clowney back should help that. And if you remember, why were they successful week 1? Week 1 against Baker Mayfield, they were successful because a lot of guys on the interior, the defensive tackles, didn't get home, but they were getting their arms in the air. They were disrupting passing lanes. They were knocking balls down. So, it's okay to understand for some of these guys, they may not be proficient enough to get in there and make a play in the backfield, but you still got to do the little things. And that is one of the biggest things overall with this defense to this point. And, stressed this week by several guys. We talk about one of the greatest defenses that ever existed, the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed Ravens. These guys were addicted to film. These guys were addicted to talking the defensive side of the ball and how to play it. And when you have a defense that's not playing well, and to find out that maybe all the effort isn't being given into changing that fact, it's certainly gonna make you scratch your head because look, you're doing this for a living. This is your job. You're paid to do it. But it's inexcusable for a team when they're playing poorly that even the little things aren't being done. Look, you can understand sometimes you're outmanned or you're just out talented. But if it comes down to a question of work and whether or not enough is being put in, that's some serious issues. The talk looks good that maybe it's turned around finally this week. Proof is in the pudding, so to speak. And of course, we will find out on Sunday. Yeah,
without question. This defense has too much talent. Unless we're overvaluing it, maybe we're overstating it, but too much talent to be where they are. The Browns seem to get where they are. This game against the Ravens, hugely important. Kevin Stefanski and Myles Garrett both talked about it today.
We kind of put the blinders on and focus on that game that's right in front of you. And like I mentioned, it's a great opportunity. We're on the road, division opponent. We know what the standings are and all those things. I get all that. But the focus is really to go down there and play good, clean football.
I mean, right now it's the biggest game of the season. And that's not only just because it's the next one. And right now, we have to get rolling. It's a very crucial game for us. And the next one will be as well. But we have to focus on this one, division matchup, and we're going into leading the division if we win it. But right now, it's a tough task, and we have our work cut out for us on defense. But I like the guys who we have in this room, and we're going to play on the field.
Garrett also said he expected to be able to play along with Clowney. There's no way of getting around it. They need the next two.
Oh, well, I mean, look, for as bad as everything is right now, it's sitting at 2-4 and knowing there's games that you gave away and you did not win. You are 1-0 in your division. Next two games, you got Baltimore, you got Cincinnati. You got a chance here in an 8-day period to not only retake the lead in the AFC North, but also to be 3-0 within that division. They've always matched up very well against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. So we'll see, how that falls next week. Lamar has definitely kind of been the Achilles heel. But for the question for the Browns is when they play the Ravens, and if they are able to run the ball, they usually can, handle that team the way it's constructed. If the Ravens sell out and are able to take away the run like they were able to do in pretty much both games last year, predominantly the Sunday night one when the Browns went down to Baltimore, really, really took Nick Chubb out of that game. So you get to an issue where you're relying too much on the quarterback. You become a one-way football team, and, the wrong way, essentially, for the Browns. I mean, the Browns, we maybe are a one-way team as far as running it. Anything you got in the passing game is kind of, a little gravy after that. But if you take away the Browns' run, you really, really hamstring what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. But again, this team is 2-4. But right now you're in a position where you can control your own destiny. And, for anybody in the AFC North, I think the route to the playoffs might be the division, unless a couple of teams really get hot right now, because it doesn't look like anybody is making enough noise on their own where you're going to start talking wild cards. So look, if you can get yourself to a position where you can maybe, after all this mess, you get yourself to a lead in the AFC North, trending closer to when Deshaun Watson returns to this team, and all stuff that this team, can view as positives, and they can kind of erase, some poor play over the last 3 weeks.
Without question, that has to be what they're thinking and what the goal is. All right, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico, and I was just thinking about Joe Woods. He's been here for 3 seasons now, and this defense has never been this bad. In 2020, his first season here, he had veteran players like Sendejo and Sheldon Richardson, just to name a couple. Last season, he had the 2 Maliks in the middle and a couple more veterans sprinkled out throughout the defense. Fast forward to this season, and now his defense is one of the worst, if not the worst in the league, with mainly first and second year players. After JJ3 said those words the other day, it broke my heart as a fan. And I just want to know your thoughts. Is it the players or the scheme or both? Thank you. And as always, go Browns.
Jeff, I'll let you go first. Player, scheme, or both?
Well, I think the problem right now, and I'm not just saying on-field communication, is just communication in general. I mean, nobody really here is that new. Like, we have these type of issues, and certainly the scheme has not changed. The defense coordinator is the same. And maybe it's time to sit down as Joe Woods and sit down with some of the top players on defense and say, look, do you think what we're calling is the best strength of what you guys have as a unit? Because, look, I mean, any relationship gets stale after a while. And when things start going bad, it's a lot easier. I mean, it's a lot harder to get them right, as opposed for them to continue to trend in the incorrect way. I understand the Browns have said that they don't really want to make a change in season, and I can understand that. Jason Tarver's the only one with defense coordinator experience in the building right now, and it was not a great little run for him when he was with the Raiders as far as him being DC. But you just need to overall just get on the same page here, because look, as much as it might be Joe Woods' neck on the line, there's a lot of players where their future is on the line, where they're going to be playing next year. Are they going to be part of this franchise? And it just kind of come down to, and who cares what everybody thought they were going to be, or what they are now? They got about, they got 11 games here to figure it out. and kind of stamp their brand on what they are. And I know a lot of people are nervous about playing the Ravens, but look, this is a team they should know inside and out. They studied this team for 3 weeks straight last year. They played the Ravens, had the bye week, played the Ravens the following week. If there's a week you're looking to get everything right, get everything back together, it should be this one, because you know this team very, very well.
Yep, and I'm with you. You go to the players if you're Joe Woods because you need them.
Maybe that's why there is more man being played, but go ahead.
Take ownership. You know what I mean? If you go to them and say, how can we play to your strengths? Now they have a vested interest in making sure that defense gets corrected. And that's when you said that was the thing that clicked with me. Jeff Lloyd and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll continue talking Browns. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, Dave, love your show. This is Gaylord Barnes calling from Phoenix, Arizona. I've been a diehard Browns fan since 1964. Love the Browns, die with the Browns. My question is, there is a bunch of defensive tackles that are out there that I think the Browns should pursue before Joe Woods gets fired, if that does happen. I like Deron Payne from Washington Commanders, and there's a bunch of slew of other ones that are out there. Even that Carolina Panther defensive tackle looks pretty darn good too. Plus, they need to beef up the wideouts because the wide receivers have not looked good at all this season, except for Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Love your show. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Jeff, I get it, but you and I have talked. They don't seem inclined to do that. They signed Tyler Davidson to the practice squad. Let's see if he gets activated. He does eat up blockers, and I think that's one of the things they need. Just somebody to eat some blockers so you have linebackers running free.
Well, eating up blockers would be great. I mean, but don't get pushed 4 or 5 yards off the ball. That's the biggest issue, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the linebackers and the safeties, and maybe they're getting, off of their fits or getting off of their angles. Well, when a lot more congestion, a lot more traffic becomes in your way, yes, it's more difficult to do that. The old adage of keep your linebackers clean, do they make the plays? I just don't think there's a fit out there I think the Browns are truly comfortable with. And some of these players, you talk about a Derek Brown from, Carolina Panthers. Yeah, great player. What picks really do the Browns have? You're not going to call the Panthers up for a guy they drafted in the first round and say, are you interested in a day 3 pick in 2024? It's not going to get it done. So there's a lot of tempting names that are out there on the market right now. I get it, sure. But you got to remember, you invested a lot into the acquisition of Deshaun Watson. And if anything, the Browns are probably looking for ways to accumulate more picks back, not give more away. The biggest thing is they're going to have to figure out what they look for and how they scout defensive tackles, because you have a guy now in Jordan Elliott in year 3 you're not really too confident in, you're not really too sure of. You have a guy in year 2, Tommy Togiai, same story persists. Perrion Winfrey, to be fair, I think you've seen some good activity from him at times, maybe not translating into production, and it's still early to maybe put a tag on Perrion Winfrey. And then the Taven Bryant signing wasn't anything really to write home about, wasn't anything that's really exciting anybody. So they're very, very weak on the interior, and I think this is something we knew. With the acquisition that came over with Deion Jones, you think maybe have somebody that can at least go in there and be rotational. We'll see the way it works out. But, the Browns did invest in all these guys, and they should be playing better than they are. But you just can't keep going out and throwing, assets trying to fill a hole. You're going to keep doing it. But then guess what? Then the holes are going to show up other places on your roster, and you're not going to be able to fill those holes.
All right. There's a couple of wide receivers that are supposedly available. This DJ Moore, Panthers, they traded Christian McCaffrey, and now they expect more to follow, full rebuild there. And then Elijah Moore from the Jets, second-round pick a couple years ago, hasn't been used hardly at all, asked to be traded, was targeted only once in the game against Green Bay. He is not going to be traded, and he is not going to play this weekend. I'm not in any hurry to really go acquire a wide receiver at this point. I'd much rather find guys that tackle ball carriers. I think that's the main issue with this team right now.
If you're going to talk the main storyline of what the 2022 Browns is currently, and look, you're going to look at this season as a book. It's going to be the before Deshaun Watson. It's going to be the after Deshaun Watson. You've seen Amari Cooper at times just be absolutely dominant. I think we've seen some really, really nice strides from Donovan Peoples-Jones here in year 3. David Njoku, we've seen some really, really nice things, and maybe starting to understand the justification of the amount of money the Browns signed David Njoku to. For Jacoby, look, it's only a short reign. And look, as a backup quarterback, you usually only get short reigns. You have your guys. Granted, he gets all the practice time, but there's only certain guys he seems to be looking for in certain opportunities, and we all saw that where Anthony Schwartz was wide open deep Sunday against New England, what could have been a touchdown. So to think that Jacoby Brissette, the limited lesser quarterback, is going to be able to come in here and use every single wide receiver. It's probably kind of hard to think that. The other thing is, Michael Woods just got his first playing time last year. And again, last week. And again, just a day 3 pick rookie. But I'm sure the Browns will like to get a look at him. They really haven't gotten an opportunity to take a big look at David Bell yet. And again, DJ Moore, Elijah Moore, even if Elijah Moore was available, these guys are going to cost some capital. And it's just something the Browns don't have a ton of right now. And you're not just going to automatically give up on players that you have that you technically really haven't given the opportunity yet to go out and chase after somebody else. And if Elijah Moore was here or DJ Moore was here, I'm not sure they're going to get the amount of looks that they would be hoping for that would satisfy them, as opposed to Cooper and Njoku and Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's not the issue. The issue in the chapter of this season with Jacoby Brissette at the quarterback is that the defense has failed them, and the defense is completely underachieved to this point.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald talked about what he sees from this Browns running attack.
It's really the holistic, approach for the whole team. I mean, obviously they got great coaches, they got a great scheme, they're very well coached. Obviously the front, the O-line is, as advertised. The tight ends do a great job of blocking. So, anytime you face a great rushing team, much like our offense, it's all 11 guys. Receivers know when to block. And then I think schematically, there's a lot of schemes that you see. It's not just wide zone. It's not just gap scheme. They kind of got everything. And then, they motion and shift and stuff to, try to create angles and leverage and numbers in different areas too, that you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's. So.
And Jeff, let's take a look at this. So highest graded player by position on offense by Pro Football Focus. Nick Chubb is the highest graded running back. Joel Bitonio is the highest rated guard. Wyatt Teller, who will miss the game, is also in the top 5. So while sometimes defensive coordinators give you lip service, Browns running game isn't lip service. It's producing.
Well, the one thing I will take from that, it was very nice of him to try to mention his team's own running game, which is nowhere near. It's not even the same stratosphere as the Cleveland Browns. But, whatever you got to say to try to make everybody feel good with it. Participation trophy, I guess, so to speak. Look, it's no secret. And, this would kind of, even if when Deshaun Watson comes back, if you're playing the Cleveland Browns defensively, what you're saying is I want to take away the running game. It's just that simple. Nick Chubb, and it's amazing the production Nick Chubb can put up, because, I went through this with people for a couple of years about overall talent between a player like Nick Chubb as opposed to Derrick Henry. And Nick Chubb gets 8 to 10 carries less per week. And right now, the production is just 10 times more. What Nick Chubb is able to do production-wise for the amount of times he touches the ball, it's kind of like, like a Barry Bonds-ish type of thing. Like, he gets it. You give it to him if he gets the ball 5 times on a drive, most likely the Browns going to score a touchdown. He is just that type of player. He has just that type of impact. The thing with the overall running game is just the way the line works together, and you see it now with Jedrick Wills in year 3. You see a lot of improvement with Jedrick Wills. Nobody talks about Ethan Postek, but Ethan Postek has been fantastic to this point. And the fact that we don't talk about him is probably the biggest compliment of all. Jack Conklin, I don't think anybody was really sure, how ready he would be, how good to go, he would be this year coming off the injury, but he's been fantastic. We'll see with Froholt going in here this week. Played, kind of sound last week. But he's got coached up. He's getting all the reps this week. This is one of the things that you get when you have a guy like Bill Callahan in tow. You get smart players who work hard, who know the system. And the Browns just got to make sure that they can find a way to get this run game going early. Because when we saw last year with the Ravens in that first game, once the running game was taken away and the Ravens basically can just say, all right, we're rushing, we're covering, that's when you get into a really, really bad spot. And when you get a defense like that going against a guy like Jacoby Brissette, who, definitely limited athlete, and the throwing style is slow, the throwing motion is slow, you get the opportunity for interceptions.
Jeff Lloyd from the Lockdown Browns podcast and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. We'll kind of hone in a little bit more on the Ravens matchup Sunday at 1, Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Jeff Lloyd from the Locked On Browns podcast. This is from ESPN.com. Take a look. What to watch for in the Browns-Ravens game. Ravens and Browns are two of the worst finishers in the NFL. In the fourth quarter this season, Browns have allowed a league-high 67 points, and Baltimore has been outscored by 42 points, which is the worst scoring margin in the NFL. Lamar Jackson and Jacoby Brissette have combined for 2 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions in the fourth quarter. And Jeff, those are some ugly, ugly numbers, and basically whoever can survive the fourth quarter likely gets a win on Sunday.
Yeah, and for Baltimore, I think a couple of those games, it was kind of like almost like they kind of shut it down. All right, we got it in the bag, went to a running game. And for the Ravens right now, the running game is non-existent. Lamar Jackson's still doing his thing. You look at Kenyon Drake, his numbers are a little, bloated, had a 60-something yard run last week, which makes that yards per carry look a lot better than it actually is. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's going to be out this week, and it's been unfortunate for J.K. Dobbins. He just really hasn't been able to shake off the rust coming back from the ACL. This was the guy they had a lot of high hopes for. It was a player I had a lot of high hopes for down there in Baltimore, a player I really liked. It just doesn't seem to be working for them. So then they become one-dimensional. And it works. I mean, Lamar can still do his thing. Mark Andrews, the receiver, Rashad Bateman will be back this week. He's a solid receiver as well. But I think the thing that with the Ravens that was really, really tough, when you played them was, the fact that they ran the ball so well. They're not doing that now. So when they get to the point, it's maybe that they're limited somewhat as throwing the ball, that they kind of maybe, ran out of bullets, so to speak, when they get late in the game. I'm sure it's something they've been working on. We'll see. I don't think Deshaun Jackson's going to be any type of factor this week. But they're going to work, more on trying to play a sustained 60 minutes and understanding, that their defense maybe isn't, clenching down in the fourth quarter like they've been accustomed to over the last few seasons.
So ESPN also, bold prediction for this game. And they say Jackson will not throw an interception, breaking a 4-game streak. While he's tossed 4 picks in last season's home win over the Browns, Jackson avoided turning the ball around against beleaguered Cleveland defense. The fact that they figure Jackson not throwing an interception is a bold prediction, I kind of like hearing that, because the Browns defense could use some turnovers. They have not been able to do that. That has been a concern all season long.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, it felt like it was, 4 interceptions in like 5 or 6 drives last year against Lamar Jackson. And, we saw maybe the beginning of the end of Lamar Jackson's season last year, banged up. Team wasn't playing well, just didn't work out in that respect. But now you have to start making plays here. Like, one of the biggest things on defense, and it's not just holding people or holding them to field goals, it's flipping the field through turnovers. It's getting, pick sixes. You were fortunate last week. Myles Garrett was able to get the strip sack, put the Browns in, was able to save a drive, get the Browns some points here. You think Jadeveon Clowney is a player that can do those things for you as well. Denzel Ward will be out again here. He had an interception earlier against Atlanta. But it's just not something they did it more last year, which created a lot of success for them. And, turnovers are kind of like it's kind of like a virus thing. Like, it picks up. Like, once you get 1 or 2, it seems like you're able to get a bunch of turnovers for a few weeks. But it's also in the same respect, when you're not getting even one, it seems like it goes a couple of games where you're not getting any. But to get turnovers, sometimes you got to make a gamble. Sometimes you got to reach in, strip, or you're jumping a ball that you shouldn't. And the Browns' coverage hasn't necessarily been this great this year, so it's kind of hard to tell guys that have made mistakes in coverage, go gamble, go get me an interception. Because for the Browns, the way it's worked, that's how you end up with Corey Davis going 67 yards with nobody on him. So it's a tricky slope. I think for the Browns, you want to start with smart, contested football, tackling players correctly, getting in the holes, just being able to shut down drives before you can expect turnovers. Because, you start gambling for turnovers as a defense, you usually end up giving up more yards, giving up more points, and God knows this defense can't afford that. Yeah, without question. So you mentioned Myles Garrett, couple of sacks, had the strip sack as well. Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman talked about Myles Garrett and how they're going to deal with him.
Yeah, and he's getting better every year. Is the way he plays the game, whatnot. You can see him from his rookie year till now, his move sets, etc. So you've got to bring attention to him in various ways. You can't just treat him like everybody else. So you've got to rob Peter to pay Paul at times to try to account for him from a numerical standpoint. Maybe get 2 guys on him, chip him. There's various ways and means, but at the same time, you can't bring yourself to a halt because all you're worried about is that. You got to trust the players, trust the plan, mix it up on them, and you can't let him take over the game.
And Jeff, what do you see as some keys to this one? If the Browns are going to get a win they really need, what do they need to do?
They have to find a way to get penetration on Lamar Jackson. The Ravens running game is not that good. But again, we have seen teams with running games that are not that good find run success against the Browns. You got to find a way to stand up. And this is more about, just manning up and getting into it and getting physical. Ravens rookie center Tyler Lindenbaum has struggled at times this year. This knock on him coming out was that he had short arms, so it's a little bit difficult to play necessarily in a phone booth, where defensive tackles are able to get some leverage on him due to length. You want to see hopefully a Jordan Elliott be able to do that. Tavion Bryant taking advantage of that. Maybe Tommy Togiai power him. You've got to basically, create a wall there in the middle. And the thing is getting pressure on Lamar Jackson earlier. Like I said, you get a hit or 2 on Lamar early, it kind of disrupts his flow. It disrupts his playing time. And then he gets in a position where he's got to think about getting the ball out quicker, which kind of takes away the scramble ability, which is, the things that'll kill you, because you can play so well against this Ravens defense, do everything right. And, Lamar finds one spot of basically, wide open grass where nobody is, and he ducks out the side, and the next thing you know, you're moving the sticks, 16-yard run, and you're basically playing on your heels again. You've got to play this game with the fear of the only thing we are concerned about is Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. These are things that have constantly killed you over the years. The running backs, the names and the faces have changed over the years. The wide receivers, the names and the faces have changed over the years. But the one constant that the Browns have not been able to contain when they played this Baltimore Ravens team is Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews in that connection. It's killed them every time they've played them. So if it's me, this is the first thing I am attempting to take away from the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. And one thing I will say to look out for, Ronnie Harrison didn't play much in 2021, but he played a ton in that first game against the Ravens, 12 solo tackles, had an interception. Ronnie Harrison has the size that you can kind of play him as a pseudo linebacker, get him a little closer to the line of scrimmage. I would not be surprised if you see some more number 33 this week. The Browns safety play has been a little suspect to this point. So it might be time to give an opportunity to somebody who has showed well at times for the Cleveland Browns the last couple of years, and Ronnie Harrison. Give him a shot, see if he can go out there and make a difference on Sunday.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, and we talked about him a little bit, Emerson is a guy that's physical enough. I wouldn't do it all game, but there would be spots where I would have him matched up against Andrews because he won't back away and he's strong enough not to get run over by him.
Definitely enough length. And I think the other thing is, I think with a guy like Martin Emerson, like you're saying, is relishes the challenge. Absolutely relishes it. That 4th and 1 against the Chargers, him versus Mike Williams, as crazy as that call was by the Chargers, Martin Emerson was all about it, was all over it, made the play. Here's the guy that seems to be kind of rising in the moment, gets himself like psyched up, geeked up for the opportunity, for the big name, the marquee matchup. It's not a terrible idea, Dave.
Jeff Lloyd, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Jeff.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Always appreciate you guys having me on here. Let's hope for a W on Sunday. We can maybe, come in next week here with a little bit bigger smiles here as we roll in what will be a Halloween Monday night against the Bengals.
I am all for it. Nothing like a win would cure a lot of the ills for the Cleveland Browns without question. Great stuff as always, Jeff. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All right, Jeff Lloyd. Make sure you catch him. Locked On Browns podcast, Jeff Lloyd. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, some film breakdown of Jacoby Brissette. Lance Riesland joins us. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for that 1 o'clock game against the Ravens. Time for our film breakdown segment. Let's welcome in Lance Riesland, former coach. And Lance, let's talk a little bit about Jacoby Brissette. And when we were prepping for this, you and I were talking, and you said something, and I've said it all along. Jacoby Brissette labeled a game manager. That's not a bad thing. People have a negative connotation, and it isn't a negative.
Oh, it's not at all. It's funny, especially over the last couple of years, that term of a game manager doesn't mean anything negative. There's very few quarterbacks you win because of, but there are quarterbacks you win with, and Jacoby Brissette's a quarterback you can win with. He does have some limitations in terms of the vertical game and things he can do explosive-wise. However, he can manage the game. He can get you in the right call in the run game. He's very good at the underneath routes, the hitches, the slants, the unders, the option routes. I just think he needs to stay within those parameters. And if he stays inside those parameters, he's pretty good.
Yeah, and again, he is very, I would say he's consistent. I mean, there was a bad interception last week, and there's, that's one he would like back, and quarterbacks are going to have those. The other ones were balls that he forced in trying to get into field goal range, which are more understandable than most turnovers.
Yeah, again, for me, it's the idea, he threw the ball 45 times last week. That's equivalent to the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes. Those guys are throwing the ball 40, 45 times a game. In fact, he threw the ball more than everybody, I think, except Herbert, who threw it, I think, over 50. So he is what he is. You know his limitations, and he has made some bad plays trying to force the ball in there. But the Browns are a running team. They built their offense on the offensive line, their running backs, their tight ends. They're a running team, and sticking to their identity will definitely help you go set moving forward.
Yeah, without question. And we say it all the time. Don't ask him to do too much. You know what you have, and ask him to do the things he does well. Let's take a look at some of the video. First thing we're going to look at, and this one we termed efficient. You termed it efficient, and he finds Harrison Bryant. Take us through what you see here.
You got a first down 15 long yardage play here. You're going to get a arrow route by Chubb out of the backfield. You're going to get David Njoku clearing it. And then you're going to get Harrison Bryant sitting down here for a little 5-yard option route, little curl route. It's not a great play. It's, like I said, it's second and 15. But it's going to get it to third and manageable. It's going to get it to that 3rd and 7 range, which then allows him to incorporate the run game, play action game, more than just a drop back if it's 3rd down and 15. So I think this is what he does well. This is a great example of what he does well. He's efficient. He finds the opening. He hits Harrison Bryant. Now you got 3rd and manageable, which is it allows him to be much more effective.
Yeah, with Jacoby Brissette on 2nd and long, you look to live to play another down, if you will, on 3rd down, which is make it something that's manageable. You mentioned he's good at the underneath stuff. This next one that we're going to take a look at is a slant pattern, and you like the read on this one.
Yeah, you have Njoku. They're in a zone coverage here, so he's going to read the zone coverage. Njoku is going to take that outside linebacker inside just a hair. And when that outside linebacker turns inside with Njoku right on the 50-yard line, it's going to open up Cooper for the slant. He does a really good job with his eyes of kind of looking at Njoku, getting that linebacker to fight, and then he shoots a really good pass. Again, the pass, it's 3rd and 4. It's a 5 to 10-yard route here, a slant route, a short, explosive route. His feet are really good. He does some really good things here. I like it. It's within his boundaries, and he delivers a really good football.
And again, a first down puts you in the opponent's half of the football field, past midfield, so kind of moving the chains and doing the things underneath. Here's another one, and this one, when we look at this, he finds the correct matchup with Amari Cooper here.
Yeah, he's got a backup safety here. And they got Amari Cooper. They did a really good job of putting Amari Cooper at the 3rd receiver. So he's matched up against Adams, who's a backup safety here. And he does a really good job. They're going to run a corner route here with Cooper. He does a really good job of locating, using his eyes, and delivering a really, really good ball. Again, it's under 20 yards in that 15 to 20-yard range, which he's very, very efficient, very accurate. They're not asking him to do too much. It's a very easy read. They do a good job of formationing Cooper into that 3 strong, which makes it a very easy read, very easy throw for the quarterback.
And again, it's on a 3rd down and 6, so he gets the first down, and they get it inside the 20, actually inside the 10. So, again, moving the ball and getting it into good situations. All right, this last one, Jacoby's not known for his legs, but he does make some pretty good decisions.
Well, again, this goes back to the game manager. This is not a super highlight by any means. But what he does is he doesn't make a bad read or a bad throw or something he doesn't trust. You get a simple over-under route combination by Njoku with Donovan Peoples-Jones running the dig behind it. He doesn't like it. He gets a little bit of pressure and he makes a good decision. And these are the things that Jacoby Brissette has done very well coming to the Browns and early in the season in terms of protecting the football. He's always been known for protecting the football. He's got to get back to that. So he doesn't like it. He tucks the ball. He makes a good decision. 2nd and 9, gets the first down here. But even if you just get back to the line of scrimmage or gain a few yards, you're keeping the ball. I'm a big believer that if every offensive possession ends in a kick, you got a good chance of being successful. So if they have to punt here, great. He picks up a first down, which is awesome. But let's end it with an extra point, a field goal, or a punt as an offensive staff. And I think that's important for Jacoby Brissette in terms of that game manager type of quarterback that he is.
The other thing that we didn't show any of, his ability to quarterback sneak and be successful is really, really good. How important is that? And it is a skill, right? I mean, there is a certain amount of skill that's involved. I mean, he's a big guy, so that helps, but it's still a skill.
Absolutely. It's and you see a lot of times you're going to pick a gap, and a lot of times those defensive guys will just jam that A gap. They'll put 2 big, heavy guys in A gap. So sometimes he slides over into B gap outside the guard. It is a skill. He's very good at it. 3rd and 1, it's an automatic first down with him for the most part. But once again, that goes back to that's not a super stat, but that's a great game managing skill, moving the sticks, getting a first down, and getting a fresh set of downs for the offense.
When you look at it, the Ravens are a team that has struggled in the secondary. Is that put on your play calling hat? Are you looking for matchups and allowing Jacoby Brissette to identify matchups? Is that something that he does?
Yeah, he does. It's funny. They have Peters and they have Humphrey. They should be very good, but they're not. They're struggling right now in terms of coverage, and I think it has to do with the overall concept of the defense right now. They got a new coordinator this year, and I still think they're learning their stuff. But yeah, I think he creates matchups, and I think he's a really good matchup. Can find some really good matchups with the tight ends on those safeties. The safeties are run guys. They're the defensive mentality of the Ravens has been for a long time. They're a physical bunch. They're a big bunch. And those corners usually cover very well, but you can find some very good matchups with the linebackers and the safeties for sure.
You mentioned the new coordinator. It is not the and Wink Martindale was a guy that was coming, from the time it got going. Have they changed that identity a little bit? Have you noticed?
Well, they're still an odd front. I think the personnel, they still have they don't blitz nearly as much as of right now as they did in the past. But the thing that they have, they're an odd front, and they're really, really big. They're even big for NFL terms. They're huge inside. They play an odd front. Like I said, they like to cover the nose. The nose likes to cover the center, but they're very multiple. But they're big. Their ends are big. I really, really like their linebackers. They fly around. Queen's one of my favorite guys that I watch on film, the middle linebacker for the Ravens. So they're still, in terms of aggressiveness, they don't blitz as much, but they're aggressive. They're downhill. They're going to force the Browns to pass the ball. They're going to load the box, and they're going to force the Browns to get it in the air. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be 25, 30 yards downfield, but they're going to make the Browns pass, I believe.
And the other thing is big guys. And you mentioned Queen. That will help against a zone type of run. What have you noticed about the big guys? Are those guys that the Browns typically like to run some of their zone type runs with?
No, to be honest with you, it's going to be tough sledding this week. And the reason why is because those guys, it's the D tackles that I particularly like a lot in terms of they're big, heavy guys. You're going to see, similar to what the Patriots did, they're going to extend those offensive linemen, and they're going to be really boring. And they're going to stay on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to extend and find the ball. And when you do that, it's really, really hard to run the ball. And they don't make a ton of plays. They allow those linebackers, Bynes and Queen, to make the tackles. But those big defensive tackles, it's hard to run anything against those guys. They're not doing much. They're going to stand their ground. They're going to two-gap, and they're going to make you go elsewhere.
As always, Lance Risland, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thank you for having me.
All right, Lance Risland. Make sure you check him out, Film Breakdowns, cleveland.com. You can also see his stuff in the Plain Dealer as well. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout, other side of the break. Our shining star, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, getting ready to face the Baltimore Ravens. 1 o'clock in Baltimore, trying to get back on the right track and get back into that AFC Northern Division race. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Yeah, I kind of like that call that you put on from Germany, I guess it was, that Stefanski is doing less with more. And, of course, you know, if Belichick and Stefanski traded teams, the Belichicks would win every time. Doesn't matter what the roster is. That's the mark of a bad coach. And the way Dave and Quincy were so dismissive of anything negative about Stefanski, they are very biased, in my opinion. I think maybe Joe Woods and Stefanski both got COVID brain. And they lost a bunch of IQ points, and they can't be creative anymore. Another thing, that whole locker room saw the way Stefanski threw Baker Mayfield, the team's quarterback, under the bus last year, leaving T.J. Watt one-on-one against Blake Hance, playing right tackle, and Watt collected all those sacks, like making Mayfield a sacrificial lamb because Stefanski didn't like him, knew the team wasn't keeping him, and the hell with him, even though he was injured. How hard do you think the team's going to want to play for that? They get paid the same either way. Why should they play any harder for Stefanski, who showed himself to be a ruthless dweeb with brain damage from COVID now?
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. But let's look at some facts now. So Bill Belichick was a head coach here when he was a first-time head coach back in 1991. Belichick didn't make the playoffs until 1994, 3 years in. Stefanski made it in his first year. Belichick chased Bernie Kosar out of town, kind of ruthlessly, diminishing skills. I can only go by what I see. Yeah, I covered Bill Belichick. And the thing is, an owner in New England let him develop, and that's why he became a good coach. Am I saying that Kevin Stefanski is going to be Bill Belichick? Not necessarily. I'm saying you have to let young coaches develop. It's the reason this franchise has been struggling. Every time there's any sense of, well, they're underperforming, it's fire the coach, change the format, and see what happens, and you start all over again. Don't agree with everything that Kevin Stefanski has done, but since you want to bring up the Bill Belichick coordination and comparisons, Bill Belichick was 33-46 in his years here with the Cleveland Browns trying to rebuild. Kevin Stefanski so far is 21-18. Again, do I agree with everything the guy has done? No, that's just not the way a football coach is going to be. Do I think he can coach? Yeah, and give him some time and let's see what happens. That's why I am very dismissive when somebody wants to fire a guy after 3 years on the job, one of which he made the playoffs, another of which you were decimated with an injured quarterback, and in his third year, you had a quarterback circus because of the suspension to Deshaun Watson. Now, they brought that on themselves, But this guy hasn't had a quarterback yet that he wants. Give him some time with Deshaun Watson, and let's see what happens. And stop with the firing. Yeah, the team is underperforming. Let's see if they can pull out of it. But just stop with the fire the head coach. That's why we're in this situation to begin with. All right, Ravens up on Sunday. Defensive coordinator for the Ravens, Mike Macdonald, talked about this Browns offense with Jacoby Brissette.
The best compliment I can give their offense is that they're very efficient. I mean, I think they lead the league in the least amount of 3 and outs. So they're always staying on schedule. They're always in rhythm. They're never kind of out of whack. So it's a big challenge for us to win early downs to get them off schedule. So you can get him into obvious passing situations. And when he does that, and when they have gotten behind the sticks, he's able to kind of rebound and keep the ball moving down the field. So it's a little bit different attack that we've seen from other teams. Like they definitely matriculate the ball down the field. Kind of old school style right there. But he does a great job just kind of making the thing go to work.
And again, Mike Macdonald about the Browns offense with Jacoby Brissette. So I got a feeling they're going to make Jacoby Brissette try to beat him. We'll see how that goes. NFL.com. Let's take a look at how the big picture nationally is looking at this. And you see, none of them are picking the Browns to win this. All 10 of the NFL.com quote-unquote experts picking the Ravens to win. Some of them a couple of points, some of them a couple of touchdowns. So I get it. There is nothing that has been done by the Browns at this point that gives you any indication that you should feel great about them going out and beating the Ravens. They haven't performed the way you would expect them to. But this team is talented, and at some point in time, they're going to put a game together. For the sake of Browns fans and everybody, let's hope it's this Sunday. I'm not so sure that's in the cards, but Browns need to put together 60 minutes of football. If they do, they can beat the Ravens, but I am not predicting that. I think the Ravens win that one. All right, each and every week, we, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program, recognize a role model student from somewhere across the state of Ohio. We're going to head to Walsh Jesuit High School and meet Justin Bremner. Bremner, football star, baseball star, and really good in the classroom. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Program is proud to salute Justin Bremner from Walsh Jesuit High School, this week's Shining Star. A balanced offense is one reason the Walsh Jesuit Warriors are one of the top teams in Division II. On the ground, running back senior Justin Bremner does a little bit of everything with the football in his hands.
I like to just run with my head down, hit those holes hard, and set up the cutbacks like I was able to do today, and just run behind the holes my O-line makes. I work on balance a lot. It's part of one of my daily routines because I feel that's one of the most important things to have as a running back. Got to be able to break tackles.
He's got great control. He's a big, strong kid with great core strength to be able to plant and cut back inside, and I really think it comes with no fear. Right? Like some guys, when you cut back inside and guys are pursuing the ball, you have that fear that someone's going to come hit you. He was looking for contact and almost delivering the blow.
There's an experienced savvy to the way Bremner runs the football. Quick and fast, but never in a hurry.
I've always grown up watching Le'Veon Bell and watching him really be patient behind his offensive line and just wait till the hole develops. You can't run to the back of your offensive lineman. It doesn't do any good for anyone. So you really got to wait and let it develop. My thought process, I got the ball, and once I started going lateral, I saw the whole defense flow that way. So I was able to set the cutback back up, and just able to stick my foot in the ground and take it the other way.
He's one of the most competitive kids I've ever been around. It's like if he's not winning, he's not happy. And that's in every single play in practice. If he doesn't bust a big run versus the scout team, he's mad. He's slamming the ball in his hand, waiting to play the next play and saying, give it back to me. If it's a pass, the next play he's looking at me like, and I go, the practice was scripted, Justin. It's not just to go right back to you like in a game. But he's super competitive. A lot of fun to be around. We've really grown a lot over the past year and a half, 2 years together.
Bremner admits as he's gotten older, he's realized how important it is to know your opponent and the things they like to do defensively.
We watch a lot of film. We probably have like 3 45-minute sessions of film twice at 6 a.m. before school. And having that, it really helps us know what plays to run and how we can obviously beat them like we did today.
Have you kind of gotten more and more into doing that as you've gotten older and more playing time?
I have. As I was a freshman, I didn't really find the importance into it. But as I grew up, and I was me being a senior now, it really is important. And if you can really learn how to pick apart a team through film, it's like nothing else. It really opens up great plays and windows and everything.
We're a zone scheme, offensive run game. And up front, he's really good at reading blocks and setting up blocks and then putting his foot in the ground, and the play's never over with him. Sometimes a little too much, but the play's never over. Eventually, you got to put your foot in the ground and get going vertical. But yeah, in our mid-zone game, he's awesome at it. He has a lot of teach tape.
As good as Bremner is on the football field, he's an even better baseball player. In fact, Justin has committed to play outfield next year for Canisius College, a Division I program in Buffalo, New York. Bremner excels in the classroom with above a 3.6 GPA and knows the importance of his academics.
I feel that they're everything. If you're able to lock in and really concentrate during school, that can carry you through not only football, they carry you through after your career. And I feel it's like one of the most important things.
And what are you interested in? What do you want to study?
Hopefully I'm going to go into accounting.
A very good student, takes it very seriously. He knows that there's life after sports. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got great parents at home that kind of have set him up for that. And our building does a great job in making kids understand that football is awesome, baseball is awesome, going to compete for state titles are awesome. But eventually that's going to go away, and where are we going to go after that? And he relies on his faith and he relies on his academics to get him right.
If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to OhioLottery.com. Find the About section. Click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star. Justin Bremner, the Walsh Jesuit Warriors, and the rest of the high school football clan getting ready, finishing up the regular season tonight and tomorrow. Playoffs start a week from tonight. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports 4 CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4. Plenty to talk about. Browns and Ravens. We'll tell you where the Browns sit after that game Sunday in Baltimore. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports 4 CLE.